My name's Gavriel Jacobs. I'm a deputy prosecuting attorney here with King County. I've been with King County for just under a year, having passed the July 2013 bar exam. My current assignment is here in Seattle in the District Court Unit, where we handle predominantly misdemeanors. In fact, we have every misdemeanor under King County's direct jurisdiction, which, as you might imagine, is a heavy caseload and it involves quite a variety of crimes, but by far the bulk of our litigation and our practice is driving under the influence and the related crimes like physical control, ignition interlock violations, and things of that nature. And it's very interesting work, it's engaging work, because in criminal prosecution, as in all aspects of life, alcohol makes people more interesting and more exciting. Still, you and the dozens of other King County TV viewers might be asking yourself, why are we spending 5 minutes of our life that we can't get back watching this rookie prosecutor talk? And perhaps as King County taxpayers, you demand a more experienced or perhaps more photogenic prosecutor for your King County viewing experience. While it's true that I can't talk about the weight of my legal experience, and I can't talk about the high-profile homicide case that I just closed, what I would like to talk about is just a few minutes of why I came here to the King County Prosecutor's Office and why I chose to serve my community as a prosecutor. Because it's been my experience that in the community in general, and in the legal community even, there's a lot of misconceptions about the job we do here. So at the end of this talk, if I'm able to change just one person's mind about how we do business in this office, then they'll probably fire me, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there that I'm hoping to address today. And the easiest way for me to do this is going to be to start with my story about how I came to this office. And in talking to the prosecutors and my colleagues in the District Court Unit, very few people grew up and as children wanted to be King County prosecutors. Everyone had a journey that brought them here. And some people's journey was as short as going from a corporate law class down the hall to a criminal law class, and the rest took care of itself. My journey was a little longer. So when I was a high school kid, I was completely lost. I was failing out of high school. The police were calling my dad asking where I was, but he didn't know anyway, so I couldn't help them. And I'd been working at a Taco Bell for 2 years, and after 2 years at the drive-thru, they still didn't consider me management material. So, having irretrievably failed most of my high school classes, including a surprise F in pottery when my vase accidentally exploded in the kiln, I'd pretty much given up on everything and decided that was going to be the pinnacle of my life. And the savior came in the form of my Spanish teacher, Senor Chandler, who I now call a visionary, who on the very last day of high school came in and gave me what we'll charitably call a makeup test. And I don't really remember much Spanish, except I now know that a D- means the same thing in every language. And when I left for Marine Corps boot camp 2 weeks later, being a prosecutor was about the farthest thing from my mind. And over the next several years, I spent 2 tours in Iraq's Anbar province, the home of things that have become household names, places like Fallujah and Ramadi, Haditha, and Al-Qaim. And while I can't say that I personally did anything worth boasting about here, I did witness other Marines, better men than myself, perform acts of bravery and selflessness that continue to inspire me to this day. Coming home to Seattle at the end of it all with one leg less than I started with was just the most visible but not the most important way in which those experiences changed the course of my life. One story I like to tell that I'm very fond of telling was when I was in the hospital for a long time. I was in a physical therapy class which I had to go to, and I was looking very down on myself, and another Marine came up to me and he said, "What's wrong with you? Why do you look so pathetic?" And he was a Marine who only had one limb left of his original 4. And he said, "Look at me. I'm still smiling. I'm still happy to be here. So what's your excuse?" And as the weeks being bedridden turned to months, that was the turning point that helped me refocus my life. And so I started taking college classes. And of course, with my high school record, I started at a community college that was off-brand and held in the basement of the hospital. And I had to stop taking painkillers to be able to focus on school. So I was in a lot of pain all the time. And I went to my first class in a wheelchair with a wound vac still on what was left of my leg to keep it from getting more infected. And as for the idea of being an attorney, I borrowed that idea as well from a young Marine who I served with, who that had been his dream since he was a child. And unfortunately, the traumatic brain injury that he suffered made that dream as impossible for him as running was for me with my broken legs. And when I did decide to become an attorney, I quickly decided that I wanted to be a prosecutor because I thought that was a way for me to continue serving my community in a way that I thought I would never get to do again. And in these choices I made in my life, one question followed me from the battlefield to college and to law school. And it's a simple question: why? Why go be a prosecutor when there's so many other things you could do with a law degree? And I found that the question itself is premised on a fundamental misunderstanding of the nature of service. And for example, when I was in college, I recall a professor who believed that everyone in the military moved in lockstep, that we just mindlessly followed orders without creativity or conscience. And just like a lot of my law school colleagues thought that as prosecutors we were obsessively focused on convictions, focused on getting a guilty plea or a guilty finding over any notion of fairness or social justice or equity. And with that information, it's very easy to understand why someone would ask, why do these things? But the answer is the same to both questions. I did it to do the right thing. It sounds like such simple motivation, just doing the right thing. But it's one of the things that makes being a prosecutor different than almost every other area of the law, because it's not about money, we don't have clients, and as discovered, it's not even about winning. And being able to do the right thing is really powerful motivation. It's what got me through a war that I understood less and less with each passing day. A war that I understood less now than the day I woke up alone in cold shock and unable to stand in a shattered vehicle by a forgotten village called Sacron West. Whether we should have gone to Iraq in the first place and whether we should have stayed, it doesn't really matter, because the Marines on the ground, the Marines in the trenches, we were there fighting to do the right thing. And we had the power to do the right thing. And we were fortunate to belong to a military that never expected us to take a shot that we didn't expect was moral. And after over a year in the hospital and 6 years of school, I feel fortunate to have found that same culture here in King County, a culture that never expects me to not do the right thing. So when inevitably I lost one of my first trials, I remember going upstairs to talk to my supervisor feeling, I can only imagine, like that guy in Star Wars who has to go tell Darth Vader he screwed something up. But I'll never forget what my supervisor told me. And as I sat in her office with my head bowed deeply in shame, she looked at me and she said, "A prosecutor who never loses any cases is a prosecutor I wouldn't want working for me." And it took me a long time to digest what that meant. And after thinking about it for a long time, I think I understood that an experienced prosecutor who never loses any cases, who's afraid to lose cases, that's a prosecutor who takes easy cases to trial to pad their win record, even if it's not justice. A prosecutor who's afraid to lose cases is a prosecutor who gives generous deals on difficult cases, even if it's not justice. And a prosecutor who never loses any cases is a prosecutor who's more concerned with their win-loss ratio than doing justice. And I think it says something powerful about the ethic of this office, that in my whole time here, I've never once been scolded or reprimanded for losing a case, but only for making winning too important, for making it an ends worth any means. Which is why I'm always surprised when law schools have trouble opening prosecution clinics, when law students and practitioners don't see prosecution as true public interest or doing true social justice. And I guess it's easy for them to get caught up when they think that we spend too much time prosecuting what they see as inconsequential crimes. But I think what's really happening is they're getting confused by the different objectives that we have as prosecutors that we have to juggle. On one hand, we have to be fair, reasonable, zealous advocates for our cases. But on the other hand, almost every case is bigger than just one case. And a good example of that is our driving under the influence caseload, where the bulk of our defendants are mostly normal, ordinary, decent people who made one really bad mistake. But on the other hand, any one of those people could have crashed and killed an innocent person or an entire innocent family. And studies have shown that aggressive prosecution is one of the most effective tools at reducing drunk drivers on the road. And as prosecutors, we all share a unique vision, almost a utopian vision, one beyond any one client, one in which we prosecute the right defendant and mete out the appropriate sanction every time. And while no human system will ever be perfect, that's the vision that we as prosecutors spend our entire careers chasing. And so now that I've spoken to you a little bit about what brought me to this path, I could tell you that I stand before you with no regrets whatsoever. I could be standing here with an extra leg, a few more vertebrae, and a lot more good night's sleep. I could be practicing law in a building with air conditioning that works for probably a little more money, but fighting where I could make righteous choices, practicing law where I could follow my own moral compass. Those are decisions that I can never regret. And the sweat and blood that I sacrificed in Iraq, to me that's a fair payment for the chance I have here to continue serving in my community, to continue making a difference in my community. And it's a chance that I would have never had I made the comfortable choice when I was 17. Let some other son go and fight the war. Continue trying to make night manager at that Taco Bell. And so, even today, I think a lot about the war and how it led me to practice law here at King County. I think about the friends I lost and what they'd be doing with their lives if they were still here. I think about my friend who inspired me to think about law in the first place, and I wonder if his mind will ever heal enough to follow me here. And I hope my service as a prosecutor here in King County will allow me to continue to work for the things I joined the Marine Corps to fight for: a safe community, a fair society, and a free country. Thank you.